My name is Liam Turner and I am a 35-year-old architect. I've been married to my wife Heather for 8 years now, and our life has been uneventful and happy. At least, I used to think so. It all started that seemingly ordinary afternoon. I came home early from work to surprise Heather. When I quietly opened my bedroom door, I saw something I'll never forget. My wife and my best friend Josh, naked and entwined. At that moment, I felt the sky turn. My world fell apart in an instant. Shock, anger, sadness, disbelief, all sorts of emotions like a tsunami engulfed me. I don't remember how I left the room, only my trembling hands and my heart almost bursting out of my chest. I drove to a park on the outskirts of town and sat motionless on a bench for a long time. I replayed the image of Heather and Josh over and over again in my mind, trying to find even the slightest trace of unreality. But the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I felt sick, betrayed, and like my whole life had been a fraud. Heather, the woman I loved for 8 years, the woman I thought I would be with for the rest of my life, betrayed me. And Josh, my best friend since college, my brother, who I've treated like a brother, stabbed me in the back. Why? Why did they do this to me? Why did they do this to me? Anger gradually took over my heart. I gritted my teeth and clenched my fists. I want to make them pay. I want them to feel what it's like to betray me. But at the same time, a voice inside me asked, Liam, do you really want to do this? Do you really want to respond to betrayal with violence and hatred? I was in a deep struggle. On the one hand, I couldn't forgive Heather and Josh for what they had done. But on the other hand, I wasn't sure if revenge could really bring me relief and peace. Maybe I should just calm down and talk to Heather? Maybe this is just a moment of confusion and there's still a chance we can make it right? When I was in a dilemma, my eyes fell on my cell phone. Maybe I should gather more evidence before making a plan. Based on what I had just seen, Heather couldn't possibly deny it. I needed some hard evidence to take control of the situation. Thinking about it, I opened Heather's social media program and started frantically searching through it. Chatting records, photos, schedule. I want to find all the clues that can prove her infidelity. I know this process will be very painful, but I have no choice. I have to face the truth, no matter how ugly it is. And so began my long and torturous search for evidence. Every piece of information, every photo, like a sharp blade, stabbed me in the heart, and Heather and Josh's betrayal was even longer than I had imagined. From their hidden words, I seemed to see a secret love history that was unknown to me. I can't breathe, and I feel like everything in the world is spinning. How can I face this reality? How do I get out of this nightmarish abyss? I didn't know the answer, but I knew that I had to do something. I couldn't just forgive easily. I couldn't just suffer in silence. I turned off my cell phone and took a deep breath. As the evening drew on, the lights in the park came on one by one. I stood up and started walking towards home. I knew that a storm was approaching, and I was walking on the road to the unknown. Ever since I found out about Heather's betrayal, my life has been in shades of gray. I worked mechanically, I lived numbly, but I couldn't find peace in my heart. I kept questioning myself, what was wrong with our marriage? What did I do wrong? How could I face such a betrayal? Just as I was losing my mind, I received an invitation to a friend's birthday party. I wanted to turn it down, but then I thought, maybe a change of scenery would help me forget my pain for a while. So, I put on some nice clothes and went to the party. There were a lot of people at the party, mostly unfamiliar faces. I stood awkwardly in the corner with a glass of wine. Just then, a woman caught my eye. She was sitting alone at the bar with an empty glass in front of her. She had a sad look in her eyes and seemed to be suffering from some kind of pain. Out of an indescribable urge, I walked up to her and struck up a conversation. She told me her name was Carla and that she was a doctor. We got to talking and were surprised to find that we were both suffering from the pain of betrayal. It turned out that Carla's husband was Josh, and Josh's lover was my wife, Heather. The coincidence shocked and angered me. Carla and I were the victims of this game of betrayal. Our pain was so similar, our situation so identical. A feeling of vengeance began to rise in me. Carla seemed to read my mind. She leaned in close and whispered a crazy plan. She was going to carry my baby and tell Josh it was his. She was going to make Josh pay for raising it, just like he made us suffer. I was stunned by the plan. It sounded so crazy, full of risk and uncertainty. But at the same time, a thrill of revenge rose in me. Yeah, why not? Why not give that man a taste of what we've been through? I agreed to Carla's plan. We toasted to revenge. I knew it would be a road of no return. But right now, the thrill of revenge had taken over. I was going to make Josh pay, no matter what the risk. And so, at this seemingly normal party, a crazy plan for revenge was born. Carla and I, two wounded souls, would walk hand in hand down this unknown path. We will be careful not to let anyone find out our true intentions. And we will make our betrayer feel the taste of betrayal in the most brutal way possible. The seeds of revenge have been planted, and I know that a storm is coming. But no matter what dangers lie ahead, I will not retreat. Because at this moment, revenge has become my faith, my salvation, my all. After that party, Carla and I began a secret relationship. We were both aware of the danger and uncertainty of a relationship based on revenge. But in the midst of betrayal and pain, we were uncontrollably drawn to each other. At first, we met in secret to talk about our misfortunes and comfort each other. We talked about Heather and Josh's betrayal and how our marriage had come to an end. Every time we talked about it, I could feel the anger burning in my chest. Carla, on the other hand, was always able to channel my anger towards revenge with her calm and sharp analysis. Gradually, our relationship began to become more and more intimate. From simple confidences to shoulder-to-shoulder walks, from occasional physical contact to more frequent hugs. I could feel Carla's pain and vulnerability, which was a reflection of my own. We were like two wounded beasts seeking solace and warmth in each other. Finally, one rainy night, we crossed the final line. That day, we were in a hidden hotel room. Outside the window, raindrops pattered on the glass. Inside, we kissed frantically, like two drowning men clinging to the last piece of driftwood. We eagerly explored each other's bodies, wanting to feel each other's body heat. That night, we left all our worries behind and sought comfort in each other's arms. I wrapped my arms around Carla and felt her tears soaking my chest. In that moment, I seemed to feel a connection I had never felt before. We were both victims in this game of betrayal, both struggling to survive in despair. And now, we had found each other, a unique form of solace. After that, Carla and I started seeing each other more often. We arranged each meeting carefully, choosing the most discreet locations and creating the most plausible excuses. We were afraid that Heather or Josh would find out, that our plans for revenge would be exposed in advance. But even so, every time I was with Carla, I felt a strange kind of peace. Around her, I could remove all pretense and show my vulnerability without reservation. We talked about the past, the future, our hopes and fears. Our souls seemed to merge, as if we were the only two people left in the world. But I knew it wouldn't last long. Our relationship was built on a crazy plan that was doomed to never come to fruition. Every warmth was like stolen happiness. Every embrace was like a farewell before saying goodbye. We both knew that once the revenge program was complete, we would have to go our separate ways and return to our respective lives. But even so, I couldn't control my proximity to Carla. She was like a light that shone into my gray life. She was like a poison that I couldn't stop thinking about. I knew that I was dancing with fire and could be burned at any moment. But at the moment, I didn't care. Let me sink once more and find a moment's peace in this secret relationship. Let me indulge once more in the warmth of this cruel world. I know the storm will come, but until then, I'm going to embrace this last pleasure to the fullest. As my relationship with Carla progressed, I began to question my behavior more and more often. At first, thoughts of vengeance consumed my mind, and I felt that it was the only way to get rid of the pain. But now, when I took a moment to look at what I had done, I felt a pang of guilt and confusion. I kept asking myself, is this revenge really right? What right did I have to judge and punish others? Even though Heather's and Josh's betrayal had killed me, could an eye for an eye really solve the problem? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I was in a dangerous spiral. I couldn't help but turn to Carla for comfort and advice whenever such thoughts arose. We spent countless sleepless nights snuggling together, discussing our revenge plans, and Carla, with her characteristic calmness and rationality, analyzed the risks and difficulties we faced. She encouraged me to be firm in my beliefs and not to be swayed by my inner doubts. Liam, I know this is hard for you, but think of all the hurt Heather and Josh have caused us, all the despair and pain we've been through. We can't just let this go. We have to make them feel betrayed. That's what Carla always told me when I showed signs of weakness. I knew Carla had a point, and I knew I shouldn't go soft. But the struggle inside me grew stronger every day. I began to wonder, could revenge really bring me peace? Even if our plan worked, even if Josh got a taste of what it would be like to raise a child that wasn't his own. So what? Our marriage was broken. Our lives were in tatters. Revenge won't change that. It'll just make us more miserable. My heart was like an iceberg, calm on the surface, but with a dark undercurrent. I began to think more about my future and what my life would be like after I left Heather. I fantasized about the day when I could really move on from the past and start a new life. But when I mentioned these thoughts to Carla, she always seemed a little uneasy. Liam, we've come this far. We can't stop now. I know you're confused. I know you're lost about the future. But believe me, only by completing our plan, only by giving Josh a taste of his own medicine, can we truly be free. I looked into Carla's eyes and felt her determination. I knew she had a point, and I knew I couldn't back down at this juncture. But inside, my worries were like a dark cloud over my heart. I began to take more frequent walks alone, trying to find answers in the embrace of nature. I sat on park benches for hours, staring at the sky and letting my mind wander. I thought back to the moments when I had met and fallen in love with Heather, to the good times we had had. I didn't understand at what point our relationship went wrong and what made her choose betrayal. Whenever it was late at night, I tossed and turned and had a hard time sleeping. My mind kept flashing back to the images of Heather and Josh cheating on each other, scenes that used to make me furious. But now, when I thought about it again, I was left with endless questions and confusion. I don't know what role I play in this game of revenge. Am I an advocate of justice or a despicable schemer? Am I a victim or a victimizer? These questions plagued my mind like a mystery. I began to feel more exhausted than ever, as if my entire being had been drained. I knew that I had to make a decision, that I had to find an answer, but I didn't know where the answer was. I continued to carry out our plan mechanically, pretending to be a conscientious husband, but I knew in my heart that I had lost my way. I was like a puppet on a string, at the mercy of fate, not knowing where to go next. I knew that a bigger storm was brewing. I knew that I had to find inner peace as soon as possible, or I would be completely engulfed. But at the moment, I felt helpless and uncertain. Maybe, in this cruel world, there is no right answer. Perhaps I am destined to lose myself in this game of revenge. But no matter what, I must continue to move forward, because I know that stopping means complete failure and despair. In the midst of my internal struggle, Carla gave me the shocking news that she was pregnant. At that moment, I felt like the world was spinning and the whole world was blurring before my eyes. Liam, I know this is sudden for all of us, but it's reality and we have to face it, Carla said calmly, but I could see that there was also a hint of unease in her eyes. A million thoughts flashed through my mind. A child for Carla and me. At a time like this, in a situation like this, what does this mean for our plan of revenge? What does it mean for our future? We sat on a park bench and digested the news in silence. The sun was setting and the sky was colored a fiery red. I looked at the distant horizon and felt a sense of uncertainty and fear. Carla, what are you going to do? Our plans, our future. This child has changed everything. I asked softly, afraid to break the fragile silence. Carla turned her head, her eyes determined. I'm keeping this baby, Liam. I'm going to keep this baby, Liam. It's our baby. It's our love. No matter what happens, I'm going to have him. I nodded, feeling a strong sense of responsibility. Yes, this was my child, and it was my duty to protect him and give him a complete family. But at the same time, I also knew that the existence of this child made our revenge plan even more urgent. We have to make sure it's my child, Carla, and only then can our plan continue. I heard my voice shaking. Carla nodded, a glint of determination in her eyes. I know, Liam. I know, Liam. We have to keep the relationship going until the baby is born, and we have to convince everyone that it's Josh's child. That's the only way we'll give him a taste of what it's like to raise a child that's not his own. Once again, we fell silent, each of us contemplating the way forward. I knew that this child would be the key to our plan of revenge, but at the same time, he would be the turning point in our destiny. From that day on, Carla and I became more cautious in our relationship. We met more often, but went out less often. We were afraid that no one would find out, that our secrets would be revealed in advance. Every time I met Carla, I couldn't help but notice her belly. Over time, it began to swell, signaling the arrival of a new baby. I used to stroke her belly gently, feeling the rhythm of my child inside. The feeling made my heart pound and filled me with a tenderness I had never felt before. But at the same time, my inner conflict was growing. Every time I saw Carla's belly, I couldn't help but think of Heather, of the good times we'd had, of the future we could have had. The thought was like a sharp knife that kept cutting into my heart. I began to get more lost in my own thoughts and began to question my choices more. I kept asking myself, can this child really bring me happiness? Could I really be a good father? Was there really a future for Carla and me? Each question, like a bottomless abyss, made me feel infinitely afraid and confused. I knew that I was standing at the crossroads of my life, and I knew that I had to make a choice. But I didn't know which path would lead me to true happiness and liberation. As Carla's belly grew, my heart became heavier and heavier. I started avoiding her more. I started running away from reality more. I knew it was wrong. I knew I should take responsibility. But facing the unknown future, I felt more helpless and uncertain than ever before. I began to have frequent dreams about Heather, about Josh, about the unborn child, and in my dreams I saw myself standing at a fork in the road with Heather on my left and Carla on my right. In my dreams, I saw myself standing at a fork in the road, with Heather on my left and Carla on my right, and I didn't know which way to go. I didn't know how to choose. Whenever I woke up from such a dream, I would sweat profusely and my heart would beat like a drum. I knew that I had to find the answer and make a decision as soon as possible. Because time waits for no one, because life is not to be missed. But at this moment, I feel the unprecedented worry and helplessness. I am like a headless fly, blindly bumping around in the dark, cannot find the direction, cannot find a way out. Perhaps this is my destiny. Perhaps I am destined to struggle in this whirlpool of revenge, destined to lose myself in this cruel world. But no matter what, I must continue to move forward, must continue to search. Because I know, give up means complete failure and despair. As Carla's due date approached, we both realized that we had to make a difficult decision. In order to avoid detection and to ensure that our plan for revenge would go smoothly, Carla and I decided to end our relationship after the baby was born. The decision was not made on impulse, but after a long period of discussion and weighing. We both knew that once the baby was born, we wouldn't be able to see each other as often as we do now. We had to get back to our respective lives and roles. Liam, I know this is hard for you, but we don't have a choice. We have to do this. One night, as we snuggled together, Carla said softly. I nodded, feeling a pain that tore through my heart. Yes, I knew it was necessary. But the thought of not being able to see Carla again, not being able to feel her warmth, sent a choking wave of despair through me. We began to work out a detailed plan to ensure that Carla would be able to live on her own after the baby was born without arousing anyone's suspicions. We agreed that Carla would move to another city before she gave birth and cut off all ties to her past. She would start a new life as a single mother, and I would continue to play the role of a husband in a tragic marriage. We have also made detailed arrangements for the child's future. I will provide Carla with regular financial support to ensure that she and the child will be able to make a decent living. We even discussed the child's education and our expectations and wishes for him or her. Every discussion, every conversation, cut me to the core. I knew that I was personally planning the separation of Carla and I. I knew that from now on, I would lose a soulmate, someone who truly understood and supported me. I knew that from now on, I would lose a soulmate, someone who truly understood and supported me. But at the same time, It's clear to me that this is our only way out. It's the only way we can ensure the safety of our children and ensure that our plans for revenge are not exposed. Only then can we survive this storm. As the day of separation approached, Carla and I became more and more silent. We didn't talk about the future. We didn't talk about our feelings. We just snuggled together and felt each other's presence. I used to stare at Carla's sleeping face, trying to memorize every detail of her. I knew that this would be my last chance, my last memory. From now on, I could only see her again in my dreams and fantasies. I began to keep a diary of my time with Carla. I wrote about our laughter, our tears. I wrote about our hopes, our despair. I knew that these words would be my comfort in the future, my strength to rely on in my loneliness. As Carla's belly grew, my heart became heavier and heavier. I began to get more absorbed in my own thoughts and began to question my decision more. I kept asking myself, was it really the right thing to give up Carla? Could I really bear the pain of losing her? But every time that thought comes up, I force myself back to reality. I know that I have no choice. I know that this is the price I have to pay, the responsibility I have to bear. Finally, one stormy night, Carla gave birth to our baby. As I held that tiny, wrinkled baby in my arms, I felt a warmth and softness that I had never felt before. At that moment, I knew that my life had been changed forever. I looked at Carla's tired but happy face and felt a heartbreaking sense of sadness. I knew that this would be the last time we would see each other. From tomorrow onwards, we would be on our own paths, starting our own lives. I gently kissed Carla's forehead and the baby's face. In this small hospital room, in this space filled with the smell of disinfectant, I felt a sacredness and solemnity that I had never felt before. "Goodbye, Carla," I said softly, my voice catching. "Take care of yourself, and take care of our baby." Carla nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "You too, Liam. Remember that no matter what happens, I will always love you." We hugged each other tightly, feeling each other's heartbeats. I knew that this would be the last time we would be close. From now on, we would only have each other again in our memories, in our dreams. Finally, I let go of the embrace and turned away. I knew that if I didn't leave, I would never leave again. The door of the hospital room closed behind me with a heavy thud. At that moment, I felt a sense of loss and desolation that I had never felt before. I knew that I had lost a part of myself. I knew that from now on, I would live forever in my memories. But I also knew that I had to move on. I had to fulfill my revenge. I had to give my children a whole family. It was my duty, my destiny. I walked out of the hospital and into the stormy night. I knew that a new chapter had begun. I knew that the future would be full of unknowns and challenges. But right now, I just want to cry. For my lost love, for my broken dreams, for this cruel world, for this merciless fate. Returning home from the hospital, I felt an unprecedented exhaustion and emptiness. This once warm home now felt strange and cold. Every corner, every piece of furniture reminded me of my lost love and broken dreams. I mechanically went back to my daily life and continued to play the role of the wounded husband. I buried myself in my work and tried to numb my pain. But in the dead of night, when I was alone in an empty room, that heartbreaking loneliness returned. I started spying on Heather Moore, trying to pick up on her every move. I hacked into her cell phone and listened to her calls. I installed a GPS in her car and tracked her movements. I became more and more paranoid and out of control. But little by little, I began to realize that this kind of surveillance didn't bring me any satisfaction. Instead, it only gave me a clearer picture of how normal and peaceful Heather's life was. She was still going to work, still hanging out with her friends, still living her life. This realization made me feel a deep sense of frustration and powerlessness. I suddenly realized that maybe Heather didn't care about me as much as I thought she did, and that maybe she had already put our past behind her and moved on with her life. This thought pierced my heart like a sharp knife. I began to question my behavior and to reflect on the meaning of this revenge. I kept asking myself, what am I doing this for? Was it to punish Heather, or was it to punish myself? I thought about Carla and our children and what I had lost. I suddenly realized that maybe revenge wouldn't bring me true relief. Maybe it would only cost me more. I began to wonder if I should end this revenge, if I should try to make peace with Heather. I thought back to the good times we had and how much we loved each other. I began to wonder if there was any chance of saving our relationship. But every time that thought came up, Josh's face would come back to me. The man who was my best friend, the man who betrayed me. I felt a surge of anger burning in my chest, a desire for revenge coursing through my veins. I was in a deep conflict and struggle. On the one hand, I longed for an end to this revenge and a fresh start. But on the other hand, I couldn't forgive Heather and Josh for their betrayal and couldn't let go of the resentment in my heart. I began to have frequent dreams about the past and the future. Sometimes I saw Heather and I getting back together. Sometimes I saw Josh playing the role of father to my children. Whenever I woke up from such dreams, I felt a deep sense of powerlessness and uncertainty. I knew that I had to make a decision. I had to choose my future, my life. But at this moment, I feel more confused and hesitant than ever before. I began to reflect more on my life and my choices. I remembered the teachings of my parents and the dreams I once had. I suddenly realized that perhaps I had strayed from the right path. Perhaps I had lost myself. I remembered something Carla once said to me, "Liam, revenge doesn't bring you true happiness. Only forgiveness, only letting go, can set you free." At that moment, I felt a moment of clarity that I had never felt before. I suddenly realized that maybe Carla was right. Maybe what I really needed was not revenge, but courage. Courage to face the past, courage to forgive, courage to start over. I looked out the window and saw the sun slowly rising. The golden light shone into the room and into my heart. I felt a warmth in my chest and a sense of peace and hope that I hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe I finally found the answer. Maybe I can finally let go of the past and embrace the future. Maybe I can finally be my true self again, the brave, honorable, loving Liam. I took a deep breath and felt the morning air fill my lungs. I know that everything has passed. I know that the future has infinite possibilities. I stood up and went to the balcony. I want to breathe and feel the world. I want to start over, to face life with a new me. Time flies like a white horse in a flash. 5 years have passed. In these 5 years, my life has changed dramatically. I left Heather, moved to a new city, and started a whole new life. At first, the change was very strange and unsettling. I had to face a completely new environment and a whole new group of people. I had to readjust to the single life and find my place again. But gradually, I began to realize that this change was actually a kind of relief. Without the shadow of the past, without the burden of revenge, I could finally breathe and live freely. I began to pay more attention to my heart and started to follow my true dreams. I picked up my brushes again and started to create some of my favorite works. I joined some social activities and met a group of like-minded friends. But through all the changes, one thing has remained the same: my love for Carla and our children. Even though we have been separated, even though we don't see each other as often as we should, my heart is always with them. I would call Carla regularly to ask about her life and the children's growth. Whenever I hear their voices and laughter, I feel a warmth and happiness that I haven't felt in a long time. Over time, our children grow up. From a tiny baby, to a toddler, to an active little boy. Every time I see him, I feel a sense of pride that I have never felt before. I try my best to be involved in my children's lives and play the role of a good father as much as I can. I visit them on holidays and send them my best wishes on their birthdays. I hope that through my own efforts, I can make up for those days I was absent and give my children a complete love. But at the same time, I began to think about my children's future and my place in their lives. I know that as a divorced father, I can't be with them all the time. I know that they will grow up and have their own lives. This realization made me feel a sense of loss, but more than anything, it was a sense of relief. I realized that I can't control my children's lives or make their decisions forever. What I can do is to love them and support them as much as I can, and then believe in their ability to walk their own path. I began to think more about my life and reflect more on my past experiences. I thought about Heather and the love we had. I no longer felt hatred or regret. I realized that every relationship, every person, is an essential lesson in life. I think of Josh, my former best friend. I don't know how he is doing now. I don't know if he is going through the same pain and growth as me. But I sincerely hope that he will find his own happiness and be able to love and be loved in his own way. I think of Carla and everything we've been through together. I'm grateful for her presence and all that she brought to the table. Even though we didn't end up together, I know that she will always be one of the most important people in my life. The river of time rolls forward, and the gears of life never stop. I know that there are still many unknowns and challenges ahead, but at this moment, I no longer have the fear and confusion I once had, because I understand that the meaning of life is not in the destination, but in the scenery along the way. It is not in the result, but in the process. It's not about getting, it's about realizing. I looked out the window and saw the sunlight streaming through the leaves, casting dappled shadows. I felt a sense of peace and gratitude that I had never felt before. Thank you for life, which has given me so many experiences and realizations. Thank you for the past, which has given me the opportunity to grow and change. Thank you for the future, because I know that it will be better. I smiled and took a step. I'm going to embrace life and the new me, because I know that whatever lies ahead, I'm ready for it. I decided to share this story because I know that there are many people in this world who are going through similar pain and struggles. They may be facing the breakup of a marriage. They may be caught up in a spiral of revenge. They may be confused about the direction of their future. I hope that through my story, I can give them some inspiration and encouragement. I want to tell them that pain is temporary and growth is eternal. I want to tell them that the meaning of life is not to avoid suffering, but to learn to live with it. I want to tell them that no matter how difficult the situation is, no matter how deep the trauma is, we have the ability to heal and be reborn. As long as we are willing to face and change, nothing is impossible. Most importantly, I want to tell them that the true meaning of life is to learn to love and forgive. Love yourself and forgive yourself. Love others and forgive them. Only when we let go of hatred and attachment can we be truly free and happy. I know that this is not an easy road. I know that it takes a lot of courage and determination. But I believe that everyone who has experienced suffering has the strength to do so. Because every fall we experience is to learn how to get up better. So, if you are at a low point in your life, if you are feeling pain and helplessness, please do not give up. Please believe that the dawn will come and the sky will clear up after the rain. Please believe that you have the ability to create the life you want, the ability to become the person you want. This is my story, a story of betrayal, of revenge, of love and growth. I hope it inspires you and gives you strength. Remember, no matter what lies ahead, you are ready. Because you have an indomitable heart and hands that work miracles. Life has a long way to go, so let's go on bravely together. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.